Part 113. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1131. Wu Yu's disturbance naturally aroused public outrage. However, he relies on his somersault cloud to appear and disappear, and others cannot catch him at all. His constant harassment, no matter how he insulted or threatened him, he continued to harass like crazy. Miraculously, the Golden Giant was able to survive the siege of so many people and even explode. Come out and fight back. Emperor Xiao was repeatedly destroyed by Wu Yu and became furious. He put down his attacks and chased after Wu Yu. He used all kinds of methods at his disposal to give up on the Golden Giant for the time being. Wu Yu, you are just looking for death, don't come and embarrass our Yanhuang tribe. However, he still couldn't catch up with Wu Yu. After chasing for a long time, Wu Yu could not be touched at all. Instead, Wu Yu was left far away. In the end, he was worried that the flame gold bead would be snatched away, so he rolled back in despair. On the contrary, people outside, whether it is the Yanhuang tribe or all other foreign forces, can see it clearly. Wu Yu's strength has improved again. According to my visual inspection, he is estimated to be on par with the 8th level of Dao realm. Otherwise, it is impossible for him to successfully harass. This is really a miracle, but he seems to have done nothing, so how can he become stronger again? Is it really an incredible miracle? Maybe someone can help. Haha. In their eyes, Wu Yu was like an unstoppable dark horse. He fought his way through countless behemoths in the ancient Soul Tower, making it impossible for others to catch up. The onlookers had different moods, but they could clearly feel that in this chaos, Wu Yu, a special existence, always seemed to be closer to the golden bead. Of course, the people in the Soul Tower did not think so, because they could clearly see that Wu Yu had already had a chance to win the Flame Golden Pearl, and might even have been in a stalemate with the Flame Golden Pearl for 3 days, but it didn't succeed, so they had forgotten Wu Yu a long time ago, and now they only believe in themselves. At this time, Wu Yu was really irritated. The Dark Prince shouted first and said, I suggest that everyone stop and send Wu Yu to the west first, all of us together, and then come here to decide the winner. Suspense, what do you think? I believe that at this time, every top powerhouse felt a surge of anger in their hearts. Wu Yu seemed to be just one person, but the harassment effect was indeed too great, making it impossible for them to concentrate on dealing with this Golden Giant, and the Golden Giant was not able to deal with it at all. They know they are tired, so it is they who are tired at this time. The Dark Prince's words made everyone pause for a moment. Their eyes met within a short period of time. In fact, needless to say, just by looking at this look, everyone had already made a decision. They really made Wu Yu quite irritable, especially before such an important thing. Then suddenly, Wu Yu knew that he was targeted by a group of more than a dozen of them, including Emperor Yu's son, Emperor 11's daughter and other Yanhuang tribesmen. There was indeed murderous intent in their eyes. This was a common decision that allowed them to temporarily give up on surrounding the Golden Giant first. The majestic evil spirit was overwhelming, suppressing Wu Yu's body. Wu Yu was stunned for a moment, then stretched out his hands and hooked them towards them. He kept a smile on his face and said without fear of all this, come on, let's go together. This pride alone is enough to shock all living creatures in the world. Kill. Being provoked by this, they undoubtedly became more united, so at this time, a group of people actually gave up on the Golden Giant, with more than 10 kinds of heavenly spirit tools in their hands, and went directly to pursue Wu Yu. All the powerful men have shown their own special abilities. Emperor Yu, Lan Qi Li Ameng, Prince of Darkness, Yin Yang Fish, Huang Guzi. It is also a miracle that the ascetics, demons, ghost cultivators, and powerful sea demons have joined forces. It not only shocked them inside the ancient Soul Tower, but also caused many people to look at each other outside. Wu Yu, on the other hand, still showed no fear at all. He was not stupid. When he saw them catching up, he somersaulted in advance and rolled to a place in the distance that was almost invisible to the naked eye. He once again challenged everyone with a smile and said, "Everyone, if you have the guts, come on, catch up. Let's see who will be the first to turn around and go back to grab the flame golden pearl." The relationship between them was too delicate, and Wu Yu didn't believe that they could leave the golden giant with peace of mind. For the first time, they did chase this way. The result was not even close. Wu Yu appeared in the distant horizon again, teasing them again. "Wu Yu, do you know what a heavy price you will pay for provoking all of us?" The voice of the young emperor of the Sky Demon Empire, the huge sky-splitting cloud beast, echoed in the first level of the ancient Soul Tower. "I know, I will be severely insulted by you, otherwise what else can you do to me? After all, you have no other ability besides insults." Wu Yu smiled and spoke lightly, which really made them angry. "Smoke is coming from the 7 orifices. The key is that they really can't catch up with Wu Yu, so for now, they can only suffer such a dumb loss. You're looking for death." Everyone scolded him, but he still couldn't catch up. This invisibly proved what Wu Yu said before. Then they continued to chase and chased several times. At this time, the golden giant was no longer visible, and Wu Yu disappeared directly in front of their eyes. "Oops, we fell into his trap." He went back to deal with the puppet. Xiao Daiza screamed, and everyone was so angry that their chests were about to explode. They felt their faces were burning, and the people outside must be watching. They were so angry that they lost all their face. They could only chase back quickly. Of course, they came back soon, but after coming back, they didn't see Wu Yu. However, the golden giant rested for a while and recovered to his perfect state. At this time, he was chasing the monks and demons who were watching, and was killing them. Those people were too close, and some even risked attacking the golden giant. This time, the golden giant chopped them up, and the corpses fell into the yellow sand like a torrential rain. The golden giant was also very angry when he saw those people coming back. With a roar, he couldn't wait to rush up and fight them in close combat with the long sword and scimitar in his hand. It was another earth-shattering battle. This time without Wu Yu, it seemed to be a little more turbulent, but it was still the same. They had countless Taoist magic skills to hit the golden giant head-on, which was quite fierce, but they just couldn't kill it. The Dark Prince, holding the dark stone pillar, was also in high spirits. At this time, the scene was quite chaotic. They were still entangled with each other, so the attack could not be particularly smooth. At this time, the Dark Prince went around behind the golden giant and manipulated the dark stone pillar. Like a bell, it hit the golden giant fiercely again and again, and hit a deep dent on his back. The golden giant turned back fiercely in anger, and the blue crescent-like blade in his hand swept across and cut. The Dark Prince quickly took back his Tianling Dao weapon and dodged back. Because the golden giant was still restricted by others, it was not difficult for him to dodge. Dark Prince suddenly, a soft call sounded in his ears. He knew it was Wu Yu's voice. He didn't expect that Wu Yu would appear behind him at this critical moment. This really made him feel creepy. He felt that he was attacked from both sides. Wu Yu was indeed behind him. Exorcism. The first time he used this transformation, in this brief moment, his eyes turned into a white vortex, making him pale and soulless, and quite weird. In the vortex, a strong and illusory ripple suddenly swept over the body of the Dark Prince. Buzz. In this moment of shock, the Dark Prince's eyes suddenly turned white and his whole body trembled. At that moment, it seemed as if his soul had left his body and his entire body could not move. For a moment, he felt like he was dead. He tried very hard to move his hands and feet, but he just couldn't succeed. No matter how he moved, his body didn't move at all. Wu Yu himself could experience the horror of the exorcism technique, but it was really exhausting. After the performance, even he himself felt a little drowsy. The key is that the Golden Giant is not drowsy. With the fighting style of the Golden Giant, any hesitation or distraction in close combat would definitely cost a heavy price. Their siege of the Golden Giant was also quite exhausting. The Dark Prince never expected that he would suffer such a huge blow at this moment. The exorcism technique took effect. Wu Yu saw that at the moment when he was a little drowsy, the blue scimitar cut through the body of the Dark Prince, and the surging blue moonlight instantly engulfed him. With a crash, the Dark Prince suddenly let out a scream, but it stopped abruptly. One could hear the surprise and fear in his voice, which contained violent trembling. Perhaps he wanted to dodge when he returned to God, but it was too late. Buzz. When the scimitar killed, the blue light engulfed it. In a short moment, the Dark Prince had disappeared. The dark stone pillar he once controlled was also pulled out by the scimitar. It was unknown how far it flew. Wu Yu was originally the smallest body when he was in the law of heaven and earth. After he performed the exorcism technique, he left immediately. In this chaotic situation, no one actually saw him, and his exorcism technique was quite concealed. It was even more impossible to see clearly from the Fengguo Tianyuntai outside. Now the battle scene was too chaotic, and the mirror was not particularly large. But there was no doubt that they saw that the Dark Prince was killed in the battle. This must be the most frightening for the people of the Demon Heaven clan. But the problem is, they can't figure out why the Dark Prince looked fine, but suddenly stopped moving, and was killed by the Golden Giant. Not only outside, but also many people inside were stunned. Wu Yu succeeded in one move, and his merits and fame are hidden. He is waiting, the body of devouring heaven is strong enough, and next, he is waiting for the recovery of the Silver Kylin. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1132. The sudden death of the Dark Prince in battle, at least among this group of top experts, no one felt sad for him. However, this really scared them. In the Dark Prince, they saw their possible end. At first, they thought that they were people of status and pillars in the Yanhuang ancient territory and the Yanfu world, and that the ancient emperor would not deprive them of their lives in this game. If some weak ones die in battle, that's okay. Now, their hearts are naturally cold. Fear arose in my heart, as if cold water had been poured on me. The previous passion and desire had now subsided, and I felt a little powerless when fighting against the Golden Giant. Anyway, if they want to besiege the Golden Giant and succeed like before Wu Yu appeared, it will not be that easy. Ever since, they had been fighting and fighting, scrambling at first, but now they found that no one could defeat the Golden Giant alone, let alone get the golden bead. They were exhausted physically and mentally, and consumed a huge amount of mana, so they could only stop occasionally and think of a way. If you have some ideas, you dare to continue to kill, but it is basically ineffective. When Wu Yu reaches the back, there is basically no need for thousands of harassers. Without harassment, they are now scattered and fearful of each other, and it is impossible to gain anything. They, a group of people, never expected that the flame golden pearl appeared in front of them, but they still couldn't grab it. Unless they can work together as one, unite as one, and have no selfish thoughts at all, catch this Golden Giant and kill him to death, I am afraid there is still a possibility of killing this Golden Giant. Their ability to suppress is poor, and the Golden Giant is not jealous. Its puppet is not tired at all, it is just a machine. Emperor Yu and the others still want to rest, but they are hunted down by it in turn. The cultivators surrounding here were also frightened by the news. They were all running out, crying for their fathers and mothers. Now the first level of the Soul Tower is completely controlled by this Golden Giant. It is like a god here. It was just now. The people who saw him as a big gift are now running around in a panic. Emperor Yu and his dozen or so people could see that they had been fighting for 2 or 3 days in a row. Their consumption had reached the limit, and they were all looking for a chance to breathe. Since the golden giant was still furiously chasing them, they wanted to. It is difficult to calm down and rest, unless they are willing to reach the second level of the Soul Tower, but that means that if others take away the flame golden pearl at this time, they will have nothing to do. Therefore, they still chose to stay with the golden giant. Until Wu Yu waited thousands of times, and even the people outside lost interest in the competition, his silver unicorn finally recovered in the floating life tower. In this way, Wu Yu was equivalent to having 3 combat powers. 5 days have passed. Emperor Yu and the others competed patiently with the golden giant for 5 days. They all attacked from a distance and did not dare to get close. However, the golden giant could not be defeated, resulting in both sides being consumed but not injured. After a few days, more than a dozen of them were really exhausted physically and mentally. They had never thought that it would be so difficult to get the flame golden pearl. What was difficult before was that it could not be found, but what is difficult now is that it was already in front of them. But being unable to defeat means that you cannot take away the treasure in front of you, which is a much more frustrating feeling than not being able to find it. Emperor Keiru was originally very anxious, but now that he sees the situation, even he is no longer anxious. Maybe after seeing the current situation, I will be more convinced of Wu Yu's judgment. However, he is also waiting. When will he get the chance? Wu Yu didn't tell him when he would take action. At this moment, the dozen or so top experts retreated far away. They were troubled by the difficulty of the golden giant. Now they looked at each other, their faces were sweating profusely and their faces were quite pale. However, they have taken on many conflicts, and it is difficult to believe their opponents at this time. After all, they guess that whoever kills this golden giant will get the flame golden pearl. They have fought hard to this point, and of course they don't want to let others get it. It is this entangled heart that makes them very entangled now. Now they are not in a hurry to go up. No matter how many people die, they want to win a chance to breathe anyway. They took a large amount of pills, and as long as the golden giant did not chase them, they took care of themselves and breathed. In fact, Wu Yu had not appeared for more than 2 days, and now they had forgotten about Wu Yu. Only then did Wu Yu appear in front of them, sandwiched between them and the golden giant. The golden giant was rioting and chasing the monks, killing crazily. Wu Yu stood in front of him, facing everyone with a smile, and said, "It seems that everyone is when I'm tired, it's my turn to try it myself." Emperor Xiao sneered and said, "You mean, you want to deal with the golden giant by yourself? Just go, I will collect the body for you in less than 10 breaths." After 5 days, he knows better than anyone how difficult this golden giant is. He is really an unkillable puppet. Others also sneered, such as young Emperor, Xianzhenzi, Huangguzi, Shueqingyin and others. They all had helpless smiles on their faces, as if they were amused by Wu Yu. Just go, don't forget how the Dark Prince died instantly. Emperor Yu also disliked him. They probably know what Wu Yu's strength will be after he improves now. At most, he is about the same as them, and will never reach the level of Dishishan and others. Only their group can deal with this golden giant. Mu Yongzi said, "Everyone, don't let him succeed. Wu Yu is still very resourceful. What if?" This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. If you have the strength, go and stop him. Emperor Xiao rolled his eyes. He was almost paralyzed now. In fact, everyone was in different moods. Some people were still a little worried. Don't worry. The ancient emperor sent the Yanhuang gold pearl to him for 3 days before, and he didn't get it done. Emperor Yu thought so and felt much more at ease. He actually hoped that Wu Yu would let the golden giant kill him. This guy is so smart. He thinks that we have exhausted our strength and now he is the only one who has the ability. He has no idea how difficult the golden giant is to deal with. With his strength, unless the ancient emperor gives him a special treatment, he can't make any noise. Huang Guzi of Huang Quanjijing said hatefully. What if he gets special treatment again? It's been done once, even several times, but he didn't succeed. And if that's the case, do you think it's meaningful for us to compete again? This is something that was originally decided. I can only say that it's really boring. Just wait and see. Whether it's decided or not, we'll know soon. Wu Yu only said a few words to them, and then he intercepted the golden giant alone. The golden giant also saw him, and it wouldn't remember that Wu Yu had helped it in the past few days. Swinging sword, long knife. Wu Yu's body grew into a huge golden fairy ape in the changes of the law of heaven and earth. In his hand, it was the Kirin war halberd Dilin. Rage swept. The terrifying heat of his Vajrabuddha body of the great sun Tathagata surged and burned the golden giant's body. The killing of the golden giant was very sharp, but in this kind of close combat, Wu Yu's third-level somersault cloud was even more powerful. None of those swords could touch Wu Yu at all. He rolled up and down to dodge and could not figure it out at all. So the golden giant was quite frustrated, feeling that Wu Yu was just playing with it. Of course, Wu Yu did not cause him any trouble. Now, the people in the ancient Soul Tower were all quietly watching Wu Yu's somewhat bored expression, and people on the Fengguo Tianyun terrace were also watching, including Luo Bin and others. After watching this farce, it's time to set off and go back. The black refining god demon dragon couldn't help but say something. If you don't speak, no one will think you are dumb. Luo Bin looked back at him with a sharp look. This made the refining god demon dragon's eyes tremble a little, and his face was not very good. After all, he was also a dragon with a great status. Say less, Fenjai Sunlong advised him. Because Wu Yu seemed to be the future emperor of Yanhuang, and he was also a member of the Yanhuang tribe, so when Emperor Yu and his men seemed to have no hope, some people still hoped that Wu Yu could do something. In their sight, Wu Yu and the golden giant were in a stalemate battle. After fighting for more than a quarter of an hour, the result was that neither of them hurt the other at all. One was quick to dodge, and the other was durable. Seeing this situation, seeing Wu Yu sweating all over, Emperor Xiao found that this was just as he expected, so he couldn't help laughing, and the others were also relieved, just treating Wu Yu as a farce, and concentrating on recovering their own strength. It's just right to let Wu Yu hold back for a while, and when we all recover, we will really decide the winner, Ling Jingxin said. No one answered, but from the fiery eyes, they thought so. Wu Yu just gave them the opportunity to rest in peace, otherwise it would be their responsibility if some monks and demons died. Inside the Black Phoenix, Chu Fenjiao shook his head and said, "It seems that he is not sure. It seems that no one can deal with this golden giant." Yezixi laughed again and said, "How stupid. Brother Yu is letting the enemy be careless. He is looking for the best moment to attack." In fact, she had just finished speaking, and Chu Fenjiao was still unconvinced and was about to mock him. Suddenly, there was a huge change on the battlefield. Suddenly, two beings appeared between Wu Yu's planks. One was the heaven-swallowing body holding the all-things gourd in his left hand and the Emperor's seal sword in his right hand. Wu Yu with white blood eyes was indeed extremely strange and murderous. On the other side, there was a huge silver unicorn, which looked like the same existence as the golden giant. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1133. In the center, there was a giant-like golden fairy ape, with golden hair all over its body, burning with golden flames, holding the dragon-scaled unicorn halberd in its hand, and 3 fire unicorns surrounding its divine body. On the left, the sky-swallowing body had white blood eyes, black mist lingering on its body, and the all things divine gourd and the divine sword emperor seal in its hands, adding to its strange temperament. On the right, there was the silver unicorn, whose momentum was even not inferior to that of the golden giant. It was the first time for Wu Yu to serve, and it was even more fiery and fierce. These two changes suddenly appeared, and they definitely attracted the attention of everyone inside and outside. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Wu Yu did not give them too much time to react. He had to try to solve it before Emperor Yu and the others caught up. This was his only chance to fight. The exorcism technique had no effect on this puppet. At this first moment, the three major attack points were almost launched at the same time. Wu Yu was waiting for the recovery process of the silver unicorn. In fact, he had already designed this process. The heavenly spiritual Taoist artifact, the all things divine gourd, spewed a large amount of smoke, which was continuous. When the smoke came out, it immediately turned into thick steel chains, which rushed to the solace of the golden giant like a long snake, and then entangled rapidly, from the bottom to the mountain, like a giant snake, quickly coiling the golden giant. In a blink of an eye, only a head was left outside. Of course, this looked like the head of the ancient emperor. The all things divine gourd now used the magic circle to the extreme. After all, it was a heavenly spiritual Taoist artifact. It was still possible to restrict the golden giant in a short period of time. Although the golden giant kept breaking the chain in anger, the all things divine gourd kept spitting out mist, which turned into chains and continued to entangle, layer by layer, no matter how much the golden giant broke. Of course, this was only part of Wu Yu's attack. In fact, when the chains entangled the golden giant, it was actually the body of the golden fairy ape. The thick arms almost doubled again. Although such thick arms are not good looking, they are undoubtedly full of terrifying visual impact. At this time, Wu Yu completely turned into a giant beast. Then in the next moment, he raised his arms and stabbed the huge Kirin war halberd into the sky, not the golden fairy. People who are familiar with this emperor know that although Wu Yu is not attacking it, the lethality will all fall on its head. The three-headed fire Kirin soared into the sky, and in the change of the magic circle, it exploded into a rolling golden cloud. In the golden cloud, the condescending fairy appeared, and his whole body was covered with flames. At this time, he easily picked up a flame record. The flame war halberd pierced down in his hand, and the target was the only head of the golden giant that was locked by Wu Yu. The flame halberd was inserted, and the clouds and the immortal king were all integrated into the flame. All the power was gathered here. This was the most powerful explosion of Wu Yu's body. In a blink of an eye, the flame halberd pierced the golden giant's head, and at this time, he almost tore the gourd of all things apart. Wu Yu's three fighting forces were of the same mind, while their group was not of the same mind, so the real battle was still very different, and they were still reserving their strength to fight each other, while Wu Yu was fully committed to this moment. In fact, when the flame halberd, the same time as the heavenly palace emperor's coming burning god formation descended, it was only slightly delayed, and the heavenly palace emperor's seal immortal sword performed by the devouring heaven body also descended. Boom boom boom. When the flame halberd pierced the golden giant's head, the golden giant was engulfed in flames. No one knew what happened to the head. But before people could see clearly, Wu Yu's second attack, which was like the sword of Zhu Xian formed in the heavenly palace, fell like a meteorite, penetrated the space, and pierced the golden giant again. This was actually just one after the other. Everyone was really dumbfounded. A halberd was inserted from the sky, and then such a giant sword pierced the same position again, causing another fierce explosion, and then the countless sword chi burst out, and mixed with the flames, forming countless blows. This time, the golden giant's mouth was probably destroyed, so he didn't hear his roar, but you can vaguely see that his exposed arms are still struggling. The onlookers, including the group of people including Emperor Yu who were chasing after him, finally breathed a sigh of relief. They were really frightened and thought that Wu Yu could kill the golden giant with this sudden change. At this time, it was obvious that the golden giant should still have a chance of survival. After all, they had caused similar damage before, but it was caused by many people attacking at the same time. And at this moment, the silver unicorn that was beside Wu Yu suddenly pounced on the neck of the golden giant. It was about the same size as the golden giant's head. After the moment when the flames burned his body and the sword energy killed the immortals, Wu Yu was quite decisive. He had already thought about it and directly let the silver unicorn use the 10,000 tribulations god-killing formation. And it was the enhanced mode of this formation. Compared with the explosion of the Black Phoenix, this power was much more terrifying. It was even more terrifying than Wu Yu's Tiangong Emperor Lin Burning God formation, which was almost at the expense of itself, especially it exploded directly on the head of the golden giant. Boom! This explosion was truly shocking. The people who caught up with them, including Emperor Yu and others, were all blown away. People further away, because of their lack of strength, were also blown away by the powerful wave. The surging power vibrated around, shaking countless golden gravels around into powder. Even the sea of sand on the ground was shaken out of a huge basin. As for the outside, nothing could be seen. For a long time, it seemed that the entire mirror was filled with flames and sword energy. I believe that at this time, everyone saw the scene and it was clear that Wu Yu had endured until now, not because he was smart, but because he was prepared. They all know very well that Wu Yu's current performance is absolutely shocking. It can be said that his 3 consecutive devastating blows were all struck at the same place. Each of these blows may not be able to be performed to the same extent by other 8th level Taoist realms present. The 3 types are superimposed together. It is fast and accurate. Compared with the attacks created by a group of them entangled and restrained each other before, it does have more convincing lethality. Maybe the golden giant was not beaten into a ball and locked up, but Wu Yu locked its head from the beginning. At least at the head position, the damage caused was absolutely unprecedented. At this time, he did not dare to. Everyone inside and outside the ancient soul tower was beating drums in their hearts, because they were really worried that Wu Yu could get the flame gold pearl because of this beautiful violent killing. The more worried they were, the more Wu Yu's performance was beyond their expectations, which showed the shock in their hearts. For example, Emperor Xiao and the others were laughing at Wu Yu just now, but now they were trembling all over and their faces turned away. Pale, although Wu Yu didn't touch him, judging from his feelings, it was like hundreds of slaps on his face one after another, and he actually felt like a clown at this time. Thinking of his previous mocking words to Wu Yu, now they are simply mocking him. Of course, it is not just him. Everyone who let Wu Yu take action just now is now filled with regret and fear. A group of old guys are almost crying. The feeling was indeed worse than killing them. Of course, the power of the explosion caused the greatest destruction at the strongest moment, and then quickly dissipated. Emperor Yu and the others chased back, pushing aside the dust in the sky, and saw in the depths of the yellow sand in their field of vision. They were shocked to see the golden giant was still standing there, so they breathed a sigh of relief and continued to approach. More and more people continued to rush back this time. No matter how weak they were, they still couldn't forget the golden bead. He waved his hand again to roll away the countless smoke. At this time, everyone inside and outside could see the scene clearly. They saw that Wu Yu had returned to his original state and was no longer the golden immortal ape. His sky-swallowing body was also beside him, with his hands behind his back. The 2 of them were motionless. Next to them, the golden giant was indeed still standing, but there was a very obvious change, that is, its entire head had disappeared at this time. Seems to have been blown up. Broken from the neck. They were shocked, and so were the people outside. Then, they suddenly saw that Wu Yu waved, and right in front of them, At the broken neck of the golden giant, a golden object was waved by Wu Yu, and then fell into his hands. Wu Yu showed a smile. After all, this baby came over on his own initiative without any resistance, but he still put it into the floating life tower. In this way, for him, the journey to the ancient soul tower was finally over. Is that the flame golden pearl? Whether inside the ancient soul tower or outside the ancient soul tower, billions of sentient beings have asked this question. In fact, they already have the answer in their hearts. The reason why they still ask such difficult questions is just because they don't want to believe it, or because they hope for a change. But there was no turning point. All that was left was the huge body of the golden giant, which turned into golden particles and dissipated in the space. Wu Yu was the only focus of the world. Maybe, if Wu Yu didn't behave so terribly, but got the flame golden pearl, people would be angry and protest, even to the ancient emperor. After all, he set up a game, but it was unfair. However, Wu Yu did it in a different way than Emperor Yu and others, but with a more concise and effective rough attack. This was convincing because they also felt that this was the way to get the flame golden pearl. And indeed, according to their guess, if you defeat the golden giant, you can get the flame gold bead. But why Wu Yu? Emperor Yu, Emperor Xiao, and more than a dozen people, as well as tens of thousands of competitors, stood there blankly, their eyes dull, and the most painful thing in the world lingered in their hearts. Until the emperor's son rushed out from the Black Phoenix, with a look of joy on his face. He rushed to Wu Yu's eyes, extremely excited, and said, Wu Yu, give it to me quickly, give me the flame golden pearl. He's a bit out of his element. Heaven-swallowing record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1134. The Yanhuangju has been successfully obtained, and Wu Yu is actually quite calm. Although when he first came in, he never thought that he would be able to achieve this day, but after a series of improvements, until the silver unicorn and the sky-swallowing body reached the same level as the main body, by then his three combat powers combined had already reached. He was stronger than anyone else, including Emperor Yu, and by this time, he was indeed somewhat confident. In the end, under the explosion of Silver Kylan's 10,000 Tribulation Super God-killing formation, the golden giant's head was finally destroyed, which had the effect of beating the snake 7 inches. After all, most of the golden giant's main magic circles were drawn on his head, especially it's because of his eyes that Wu Yu's success has something to do with his right bet. Now, the ancient soul tower is silent, the golden giant has disappeared, and only Wu Yu is in the world. The Emperor Kairu next to him seemed a little insignificant. Wu Yu, give me the flame gold pearl. Emperor Yu's eyes were filled with too many emotions. Excited, nervous, anxious. Indeed, for him, this is probably the most important moment in his life. It can be seen that he is really anxious, and he can't wait to hold the flaming golden pearl in his hand right away. Wu Yu didn't intend to monopolize it. After all, it was related to the emperor's position as emperor's son. He was still fighting for it as emperor's envoy. Although he was a little reluctant to give up the main distribution rights of the treasures, there was nothing he could do. After all, this is his father's thing, so he can be considered as a person who deserves it if he gets it. Anyway, it is impossible for Wu Yu to monopolize it, otherwise the Yanhuang tribe would not agree. Of course, Wu Yu is also confident that Emperor Yu has won the throne. When the time comes to distribute the treasures, he will definitely take the lion's share. Unless the emperor wants to burn down the bridge, Wu Yu thinks he doesn't have the ability. However, Wu Yu thought for a moment and still didn't give it to him. He patted Emperor Zi's shoulder and said, "Calm down first. We haven't left the ancient soul tower yet. If I give it to you now, it may be taken away by others. I'm not sure whether I've really got the flame gold now pearl. It's possible that it's not a flame gold pearl. We'll wait until we get out of the ancient soul tower." "That's it, okay." Emperor Yu felt a little uncomfortable. He was indeed anxious, but Wu Yu seemed to be telling the truth. If the flame gold pearl was placed in his hand now, the flame gold pearl would probably fly away. He probably can't even control it. Wu Yu was actually waiting. He found that it was very quiet at this time, but the ancient soul tower had not disappeared. Everything was still as usual. All of them were still in the ancient soul tower. I remember that the regent said at that time that it had to be that only when the flame golden pearl is truly obtained will everyone come out of it. At about this moment, everyone with ashen faces suddenly became extremely excited, even ferocious, and someone could even be heard saying in the distance, "It's not over yet, kill him and take away the flame gold pearl." Someone was shouting, but Emperor Xiao and Emperor Yu took action directly. They were chasing this way. They only paused for a moment, and then immediately started going crazy without saying a word. There is only scarlet in it. This is probably their most important opportunity to change their lives, so Wu Yu knows that they will definitely give 100%, even risk their lives. It's still a critical moment. The key is that Emperor Yu unexpectedly ran up, otherwise Wu Yu would have simply slipped away, so Wu Yu was quite depressed about his anxious attitude. However, there was no other way. He could only drag Emperor Yu and run away. Now his normal speed was much faster than Emperor Yu and the others. Now he drove the somersault cloud and soared away, even though he brought the Emperor's son also disappeared in a flash. Wu Yu blasted away the cultivators and demons who had gathered around him. Within a short time, no one was able to intercept him. Such a speed will undoubtedly disappoint Yu Daizi, Lan Qi Liameng, Yin Yang Yu and others. In fact, there was another person in the chasing team, and that was Nangang Wei. After losing the nine-headed Demon King, their team's strength dropped greatly, and they could only mix in the 5th and 6th layers of the Soul Tower. This time they were also chasing the first level. Unfortunately, she can no longer be the center of attention. The focus this time is still Wu Yu, and she is a bit similar to before. She can only hide in the corner and watch Wu Yu's amazing performance. She but can't get to the core. I still remember that when he was in Nanyan Demon Continent, Wu Yu was about the same level as her. Wu Yu couldn't see her, otherwise he would have been able to see the hatred, despair, and various complex emotions in her eyes. In the blink of an eye, Wu Yu had traveled thousands of miles in an instant. The 11 Dainu, Mu Yongzi, Xue Qingyan, and others who were following closely behind him had tried their best and spent everything, but now they could only hang from a distance, watching. It was easy to see Wu Yu, but in fact, even they themselves were in despair. For example, Emperor Xiao, yelling and threatening him, could not stop his sadness. It can even be said that they have been here in this life. From the moment it started, it was a complete failure. It is easy for Wu Yu to get rid of them. He is now thinking about how to really get the flame gold pearl. In fact, the body of swallowing heaven is in the floating life tower now, and he is thinking about the flame gold pearl. Now the flame gold pearl it returned to a calm state and remained motionless. Wu Yu was really worried that it would destroy the fusion tower. At this moment of headache, he suddenly felt a huge change in the world. It seemed that all the yellow sand and storms had stopped moving, and then disappeared out of thin air. The yellow sand, storms, and sea of sand that he could see were still there. The horizon, the distant sky, the golden clouds and lightning in the sky all disappeared in a short period of time. Wu Yu stopped. After the disappeared sky, he saw the sky again. In the distance were dense buildings, ancient, thick, and magnificent. They were the divine capital. It had been a while since he had seen the divine capital. A bit nostalgic. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. In about 3 breaths, everything in the ancient Soul Tower had disappeared. Wu Yu looked around now. On the Fengguo Tianyuan platform, the huge ancient Soul Tower on the top had disappeared, and the area returned to light. Looking around, in the capital of the gods, there are rows of immortal buildings, and in the wide streets, there are a large number of monks, most of them are Yanhuang tribe, the number is almost hundreds of millions, they all stretch their necks to stay with Wu Yu and the others. Around him, all the people who had been in the ancient Soul Tower had come out and gathered at the Fengguo Tianyuntai. This made it a little crowded. Wu Yu quickly withdrew Black Phoenix and Nanshan. Wang Yu and the others gathered together, a group of 7 people. In the middle was the somewhat frightened and panicked Emperor Zi. At this time, everyone was actually a little confused. After all, this change came a little suddenly. Of course, Wu Yu was in a good mood and his reaction was of course very good. Quickly, at this moment when the emperor was panicking, Wu Yu patted him hard on the back again and said, "Emperor, it's over. Congratulations. The most important dream in your life has been realized. Now they have obviously come out of the ancient Soul Tower, and the ancient Soul Tower has disappeared, which indeed means that the battle of the ancient Soul Tower is over." Ah, Emperor Zi was in a trance. The surprise was so exciting, and he was obviously still a little frightened. At this time, he looked at everyone blankly and couldn't help but chuckle. Wu Yu saw Emperor Yu and his companions. They looked around. Contrary to Emperor Yu, the expressions on the faces of these emperors' sons and daughters could only be described as despair. They had missed the best opportunity in this life, and I'm afraid they would only be able to survive in the future. I can wash my face with tears, but there is no other way. The competition is so cruel, and only one person can have the last laugh. Now it seems that this person has no suspense. He is the emperor's son. In the end, the most enviable winner. That's why it seems that all the eyes of those outside are focused on Wu Yu and Emperor Yu. Although there are more Wu Yu, Emperor Yu is the next protagonist. At this time, I heard the resonant declaration from the Regent Dishishan. I declare that the competition for the Flame Golden Pearl in the ancient Soul Tower is completely over. It has ended successfully. Everyone and I can clearly see who gets the Flame Golden Pearl. Chew. Let us congratulate this emperor. He had long been optimistic about Emperor Yu's son, so his extremely excited eyes fell on Emperor Yu's body at this moment. Following his gaze, everyone was also looking at Emperor Yu's son. Most of the Yanhuang tribe, they are all happy. After all, the people who finally got the Flame Golden Pearl were not foreigners. At least their treasures were not taken away by others. There were only a few. They should have a better relationship with other emperors' sons and daughters. Therefore, at this moment, not only the Divine City, but also the entire Yanhuang ancient kingdom, all the Yanhuang tribe, cheered almost at the same time. The grand cheers directly caused the earth to tremble, and the sound that soared into the sky broke away the clouds. It made the national boundary magic circle tremble. If the buildings in the divine capital were not blessed by the magic circle, even the streets would have been shaken to pieces at this time. That deafening sound can only be said to be too crazy. Wu Yu was in the middle of this whirlpool, and was also shocked by the madness of the cheers. The emperor was even more unsteady, but Wu Yu held him down, otherwise he would have been shocked and made a fool of himself. Along with the earth-shattering cheers, the Yanhuang people began to shout the name of Emperor Yu. To them, Emperor Yu was like the ancient emperor who had chosen him early in the morning. Now he was almost born on the auspicious clouds of myth. The words were overwhelming and swept across the world of Jambu. In the center of this whirlpool even shed tears. How many moments like this can there be in a lifetime? On the other hand, those foreigners who made pilgrimages from all over the world naturally did not cheer and were basically silent. They may think that this is an internal decision and that there is a shady secret, but it is not so obvious, so the anger and unwillingness can only be kept in their hearts for the time being. Wu Yu, can you give me the flame gold pearl? In the midst of the shocking wave, Emperor Yu finally stabilized this time, kept smiling, and stretched out his hand to Wu Yu. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, Please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1135. Yu Daizhi has endured until now. He is already calm enough. If it were anyone else, they would have wanted to hold the Yanhuang gold pearl in their hands immediately. Wu Yu did not want to keep it all for himself. After all, if he took it, he would only have the treasure inside, while if Yu Daizhi took it, he could even get the throne of the emperor. So, he was very straightforward and took the Yanhuang gold pearl out of the Fusion Tower in full view of everyone. People noticed the Yanhuang gold pearl at the same time while cheering. Their eyes were attracted by it and full of yearning. Seeing Yu Daizhi's high spirits now, they were even more envious. Who could not understand that from today on, Yu Daizhi would truly ascend to heaven in one step? Not only would he become the Yanhuang emperor, but his future immortality would also be a foregone conclusion. One adventure, lifelong benefits. From death to immortality, to power over the world, it is indeed fantastic. I am afraid that no one in the world does not envy Yu Daizhi. Even if you are jealous in your heart, there is nothing you can do at this time. For example, the emperors and princesses represented by Emperor Yu and Emperor Xiao, their world at this moment has completely lost its spirit. They are lost and stare at Emperor Yu blankly. Amid the complex attention of the crowd, Emperor Yu is completely attracted by the Yanhuang gold pearl. With a smile on his face, he tries to control his trembling hands, stretches out his hand, and is ready to take the Yanhuang gold pearl in Wu Yu's hand. He feels that this is what he has obtained. Some people may think that he is not good enough and relies entirely on Wu Yu, but he doesn't care. He knows that after being chosen by the ancient emperor, he will become the new ancient emperor one day, and then no one will dare to say anything. By then, people like Emperor Yu will not know where they have died. His fingers touched the Yanhuang gold pearl. To be honest, he was still trembling in his heart when he touched this cold object at this moment. It was like a dream. It is unimaginable how dreamy he is now. Take it, Wu Yu urged him when he saw that he was just touching it and didn't take it away. Li Daizhi was also anxious. When he took it, he found something strange. The Yanhuang gold pearl seemed to be stuck to Wu Yu's hand. He actually tried very hard, but he couldn't pick it up. It was still stuck to Wu Yu's hand. Wu Yu, are you kidding? In fact, Li Daizhi was a little angry besides being excited. He felt that Wu Yu was just joking at ordinary times, but he was teasing him at this time. Before, he wanted Wu Yu to fight for it, but Wu Yu didn't listen. Although Wu Yu was proved to be right later, he always had a grudge in his heart. At this moment, a little bit broke out. What's going on? In fact, Wu Yu himself was more depressed. He didn't do anything, but when Li Daizhi touched the Yanhuang gold pearl, the thing was stuck to his palm. He stretched out his other hand, but he couldn't take it off. Emperor, don't get me wrong, it's a little strange. Wu Yu's face changed slightly. He had tried very hard, but the Yanhuang golden pearl was like a magic spell, sticking to his hand like a fairy. Emperor Yu thought he was teasing him. Wu Yu wanted to explain that he didn't want to have a conflict because of this matter. But at this time, the cheers of people suddenly stopped in the noise. The initial cheers had passed, and people were finally able to calm down. The reason for this was that people saw that a man shrouded in golden clouds appeared in the sky. The only thing they could see was his eyes, like the scorching sun and the crescent moon. The Yanhuang ancient emperor appeared again. When the ancient emperor appeared, people naturally had to calm down, and the entire city of God soon calmed down. In fact, some foreign forces were also waiting for silence, because there were always people who were a little dissatisfied with the result. Some people always felt that this might be manipulation. They were very excited, but they didn't know if they could say it in front of the ancient emperor. Maybe they were waiting for someone to come forward. If someone came forward first and everyone followed suit, it would be much easier. Because of the appearance of the ancient emperor, Wu Yu and Le Diza were not convenient to pull the Yanhuang gold pearl here. Le Diza was a little confused. He still felt that Wu Yu was reluctant to give up the Yanhuang gold pearl, so he was afraid that he had some hatred, but obviously, he felt that the ancient emperor would definitely not let Wu Yu mess around. In fact, before announcing that he was the next Yanhuang emperor, he was still very nervous. The stone in his heart could not fall. Greetings to the ancient emperor. Even the Phoenix Lord, the Dead Demon Lord, etc., all saluted respectfully. Not to mention the Yanhuang clan, all knelt down and worshipped. The supreme ancient emperor was as difficult to contact as a god. After he appeared, a pair of eyes seemed to be inspecting the common people. People were in awe. Many unwilling foreigners wanted to protest, but when the ancient emperor was in front of him, he seemed to feel that the ancient emperor saw through his thoughts. So, he seemed to have suppressed all his anger. Finally, in the expectation of the people, the ancient emperor spoke. His voice was melodious. It could be heard throughout the ancient country of Yanhuang. He said, after a period of time in the ancient Soul Tower, it was a relatively fierce and exciting competition. Without my interference, someone finally relied on his own ability, wisdom, and more importantly, luck to obtain the Yanhuang gold pearl and end the battle of the ancient Soul Tower. It seems that the ancient emperor is in a good mood and talks more than before. It seems that there is a feeling of closeness. It feels that this immortal is not as distant and solemn as before. People waited for him to continue. His eyes finally locked on Wu Yu's direction. Of course, there are many people in this direction. At this point, those who should be disappointed, desperate, and painful actually felt it completely. They all knew that at this point, it was absolutely a complete failure. The ancient emperor seemed to have a faint smile and praise in his voice, saying, "You all saw that in the end, he relied on his real ability. And in the ancient Soul Tower, he rose rapidly, was fearless, brave and resourceful, and his luck soared to the sky. The person who finally won the Yanhuang gold pearl was Wu Yu, the Le Emperor envoy who was personally appointed by me." The ancient emperor personally announced that there was no suspense at this time. The person who got the Yanhuang gold pearl was indeed Wu Yu. At this time, the whole world cheered again. This time, it was not Le Emperor's son who was cheering, but Wu Yu. Wu Yu belongs to the Yanhuang tribe after all, so today is like a victory for the Yanhuang tribe, so they cheered and were really excited and manic. The sense of racial honor filled their chests. At this time, the person who enjoyed the cheers of the crowd was Wu Yu. Emperor Yu was a little embarrassed, but he was not in a hurry. After all, he and Wu Yu were one at this time. He estimated that the ancient emperor would announce that the next Yanhuang emperor would be him. After all, in the recent period of time, he felt the extra attention of the ancient emperor on himself, which was reflected in Wu Yu. Wu Yu rose rapidly, and he personally arranged Wu Yu to be his emperor. The shouts about Wu Yu resounded for a long time. This atmosphere really makes people feel excited. But Wu Yu had a worry. He secretly wanted to take the Yanhuang gold pearl from his hand, but he failed. Indistinctly, he felt a little strange. "I want to give the Yanhuang gold pearl to Le Diza, why don't you let me give it to him?" The only person who can control the Yanhuang gold pearl is the ancient emperor. Could it be that the ancient emperor doesn't want me to give the Yanhuang gold pearl to Le Diza? This made Wu Yu very depressed. Could it be that the ancient emperor doesn't want Le Diza to be the future emperor? He just thinks that I am a member of the Yanhuang clan who is not a son of the emperor. After I get it, the Yanhuang gold pearl will be completely mine, and the position of the Yanhuang emperor will be delayed for hundreds of years before being elected. After thinking of this possibility, he felt it was very likely. Otherwise, why would the ancient emperor stop himself from giving the Yanhuang gold pearl to Le Diza? Wu Yu amid the cheers of the people, Le Diza secretly reached out and used his eyes to warn Wu Yu to give him the Yanhuang gold pearl quickly. Emperor, I can't take it down. Wu Yu shook his head. Stop it, I'm really angry. Le Diza's eyes trembled a little. It's not me, it's the ancient emperor. Wu Yu could only tell him the truth. Wu Yu's current guess is that the ancient emperor actually had no intention of appointing the next emperor of Yanhuang, but just created this competition to train the younger generation. After all, he did not say clearly who would eventually get the Yanhuang gold pearl after the imperial envoy won it. Originally, everyone assumed that it would definitely go to the emperor's son or daughter, but if the ancient emperor did not want to, he could just give it to the imperial envoy directly. Wu Yu really couldn't take it down, so he could only think that it was the ancient emperor's intention not to appoint him as the future emperor. How is that possible? Emperor Yu naturally didn't believe it. He stared at Wu Yu with wide eyes in the midst of the cheers, and he must be trembling in his heart. He must be very depressed, but Wu Yu could not do anything about it. He felt that he could only see what the ancient emperor said. In fact, people were also waiting for the next announcement from the ancient emperor. He obviously hadn't finished speaking yet. Now the cheers gradually subsided, and everyone was looking at the ancient emperor eagerly. The ancient emperor had a gentle look. In fact, he was still looking at Wu Yu or Emperor Le. Everyone was staring at the two of them. Of course, the person who was looking at them more now was Emperor Le. Finally, the ancient emperor spoke. He said in a steady voice, I have said before that if the emperor's son or daughter can win the Yanhuang golden pearl, they will be the next emperor of Yanhuang. Now, it can be said that the emperor's son or daughter has won it, so I hereby announce. Hearing this, Emperor Li's eyes were filled with tears. Although there was a little turmoil just now, after hearing this, his throne was stable. Wu Yu was puzzled. He didn't expect that the ancient emperor would still be the new emperor. It seemed that his previous guess was wrong. Emperor Le was really going to change his fate. Everyone looked at the ancient emperor. Then, the ancient emperor announced, from today on, I announce my abdication. The emperor's son Wu Yu will hold the coronation ceremony tomorrow and officially ascend the throne. Perfect anti-theft chapter. Please use the search engine to search for keywords. Various novels are available for you to watch. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1136. Finally, I heard the announcement from the ancient Emperor Yanhuang. The matter of Emperor Leza was settled, so Wu Yu felt relieved after hearing the announcement from the ancient emperor. Although he and Emperor Leza were not closely related, and they were just grasshoppers on the same rope, his dream finally came true, and Wu Yu was happy for him. Congratulations, Emperor, your dream has come true. Wu Yu smiled and congratulated Emperor Lezi as soon as the ancient emperor finished his announcement. But he did not expect that Emperor Lezi's face was distorted, and even twisted into a knot, and he even looked at Wu Yu with deep pain. At that moment, Wu Yu's mind was a little blank, and he was a little unresponsive. At this moment, there were many uproarious voices around. Wu Yu felt that countless hot eyes were looking at him. He looked in astonishment and found that Nanshan Wanjiao and Yezixi were looking at him in shock. In the distance, there was Nangong Wei next to Huangzun and Luobin from the Shenlong clan. Even Luobin's eyes had a strange feeling at this time. For a moment, Wu Yu himself was completely confused. He was wondering what happened. Why did everyone look at him in shock after the ancient emperor's announcement? This memory instantly shocked him like being electrocuted. Before, I didn't listen to the details carefully, I only focused on ascending the throne tomorrow, but when I thought about it, I seemed to hear a sentence Emperor Envoy Wu Yu. Emperor Envoy Wu Yu ascended the throne. Wu Yu seemed to be unable to breathe instantly. He was a little sure that the person the ancient emperor called just now seemed to be not Emperor Le, but Emperor Envoy Wu Yu. No, it seems to be the emperor's son Wu Yu. He finally remembered the details, and the ancient emperor had just said this. Thinking carefully, he found that he was not talking about the emperor's envoy Wu Yu, but the emperor's son Wu Yu. Wu Yu was completely confused. It was as if God was playing a joke on him, a big joke. He was sure that it must be the emperor's son Wu Yu, otherwise Emperor Le would not be so twisted at this time, otherwise the people of the world would not be so shocked. Even Emperor Shishan and other Yanhuang people were looking at him in shock at this time. You, Emperor Li's eyes were bloodshot, and tears flowed out like a rainstorm. At this moment, he was out of breath, staring at himself, and pointed his finger at Wu Yu's head. I made a mistake, Emperor's son, don't worry, I made a mistake. Wu Yu was also a little confused, and he hurriedly explained to Emperor Le. But before he finished speaking, he found that his forehead was a little hot, as if there were many bugs crawling on it, which was a little uncomfortable, but it was over soon. However, the sudden change in his body also made Wu Yu quite alert. He reached out to touch his forehead, but couldn't feel anything. But when he let go of his hand and let Le Diza see his forehead, he actually looked up at the sky and let out a miserable roar, and then coughed while crying and coughing. I'm afraid he would cry out all his internal organs. Xuanhuan and others around him were also miserable at this time, with tears on their faces. Looking at other people, their faces would only be more shocked, and in addition to being shocked, it seemed that they could also see a sense of sudden enlightenment. Brother Yu, there is an extra word Yu on your forehead. Yazixi was right in front of Wu Yu, her eyes wide open, her voice was extremely weak, as if she was trying very hard to finish the sentence. And Nanshan Wanjiao on the side also nodded in astonishment and said, she is right. A word Yu. Of course Wu Yu knew what this meant. Only the sons and daughters of the emperor would have such words on their foreheads. For example, the son of the emperor, Le, had a word Le on his forehead. And there was a word Yu on his forehead, which meant that he was the son of the emperor. But Wu Yu was very clear about his life experience. His father was the last emperor of Dongguo, his mother was just an ordinary concubine, he was a humble mortal, and he looked like his father. These were all ironclad facts. Impossible. How could I be the son of the emperor? What Wu Yu suffered at this time was an unprecedented stimulation. He knew very well that if he was really the son of the ancient emperor Yanhuang, then all the actions of the ancient emperor Yanhuang made sense. He had never valued the son of the emperor, and he only valued Wu Yu. This was also the reason why Wu Yu's strength exploded in the ancient Soul Tower, and the son of the emperor was just a drag. The so-called attention has never had anything to do with Le Diza. People all thought that Le Diza was the one chosen by the ancient emperor. Now, if Wu Yu is really the illegitimate son of the ancient emperor, then it makes sense. Everything can be explained. Even Huangzhun suddenly realized it. I didn't expect that there would be such a change. I have long said that Wu Yu is a person that the ancient emperor cares about very much. I didn't expect that it would be like this. Huangzhun narrowed his eyes and was also very surprised. Impossible, mother, this is absolutely impossible. I know everything about him clearly. Nangongwei said blankly. Huangzhun was a little dissatisfied. Nangongwei shut up and dared not say more. Wu Yu was in a whirlpool at this time. Now the whole world is looking at him, the new emperor. If nothing unexpected happens, he will ascend the throne tomorrow. This time he ascends the throne is different from the last time. The last time he ascended the throne was a mortal country, but now it is the huge ancient country of Yanhuang. He is the first emperor of this world of Yanfu, ruling over endless territories and controlling countless powerful people. But Wu Yu actually still didn't want to believe all this. He couldn't believe that he would be the son of the ancient emperor, so he guessed that there must be the ancient emperor's design. What? I will personally train a son who can take over for me. I will not let him grow up in Yanhuang. I will let him experience in the mortal world since he was a child. After he has a foundation, I will take him back to Yanhuang. Until today, he finally has someone to rule. I am the capital of the Yanhuang ancient kingdom, and I will tell the world the truth. Do you think this is strange? The ancient emperor Yanhuang was so high up. This immortal spoke again, full of oppression. His words were full of authority and there was no way to refute it. This story even made Wu Yu a little shaken. It was impossible for others not to believe it. When the ancient emperor finished speaking, the Phoenix Lord first raised his hands and said, "So that's it? Congratulations to the ancient emperor. Congratulations to the ancient emperor. I told you before that Wu Yu could have such talent and will. He would definitely not be born by a mortal, he was born to be an emperor. How could he achieve such an achievement with ordinary blood? It turns out that he was trained by the ancient emperor himself. We suddenly realized it. Of course, Wu Yu, we also have to congratulate you. You will be the emperor of Yanhuang tomorrow. The greatest authority in the world lies in this hand." Huangzhun all spoke, and other strong men from various forces spoke after this shocking news. Although there are some other grudges in my heart, such as doubts about the fairness of the ancient Soul Tower battle, I still put this matter behind at this time, and congratulated the ancient emperor and Wu Yu one after another. Beiming Empire, Mugzi Dynasty, Tianqian Starry Sky Empire, Jinyao Central Empire, Motion Dynasty, Izumo Kingdom, Brahma Flower Fairyland, Sky Demon Empire, Million Demon Mountain, and the demons from the sea suddenly realized. Among them, they couldn't help but admire the ancient emperor's ability to create talents, and congratulated Wu Yu and the ancient emperor one after another. I remember that when Wu Yu first came, the Yanhuang tribe still looked down upon him, thinking that he was being used as a stepping stone for the emperor's son. Even today, some people still think so. It's a pity that the truth now has such a huge reversal, even for the ancient emperor. The younger brothers and sisters were completely confused at this time. In fact, Dishishan didn't even know that he valued Wu Yu through the ancient emperor. He mistakenly thought that the ancient emperor was implying that he was the emperor's son, so he gave him a lot of conveniences. Now he didn't expect that it was Wu Yu, so he himself all a little embarrassed. Of course, now Emperor Yu has been forgotten. The royal relatives, princes, and ministers of the Yanhuang tribe also followed at this time, congratulating the ancient emperor and congratulating Wu Yu. Of course, they now call Wu Yu the son of Emperor Yu. It may be obvious that there will be a new name. Ascension to the throne again. Wu Yu's heart was like a surging wave. He raised his head and looked at the ancient emperor. At this time, in his eyes, the golden clouds around him gradually dissipated, and finally a person appeared. That was the ancient emperor Yanhuang. His eyes were extremely dazzling. For example, the left eye is burning like the sun, and the right eye is like the blue moon. Except for these eyes, his appearance is almost exactly the same as that of his father in Wu Yu's memory when he was young, and even looks like Wu Yu now. Are somewhat similar. Don't blame me. If I want you to have the achievements and character you have today, I have to give you a different growth environment so that you can feel more clearly what is the real Tao and what is cultivation. Even if you plunder, only by being strong can you chivalry. These words rang in Wu Yu's ears like a deafening sound. Practicing means plundering, only being strong can lead to chivalry. Perhaps, there are two other appearances. The ancient emperor's body suddenly changed. In the blink of an eye, Feng Shui stood in front of Wu Yu. That was Feng Shui. Wu Yu could not forget his appearance and temperament. He looked like this, meaning, that is to say, Feng Shui is actually him. Does that mean that everything was his design? He was killed in the palace, and then Feng Shui suddenly appeared to save him? However, all of this was clearly based on the Ruyi Golden Cudgel and Sun Wuodao. When Wu Yu just thought this, the ancient emperor changed again. An old man appeared in front of Wu Yu. His body was stooped. Although his face was old and withered, he looked at Wu Yu with a smile, kind and wise. That is, son Wuodeo. At that moment, Wu Yu's heart felt like it was hit hard. At this moment, he really felt like he was dreaming. Remember, when I asked you, do you hate those immortals, I said, you can't hate, you are not allowed to hate, mortals cannot fight with immortals, they are the pride of heaven, born to dominate us, we are mortals, we are ants. You can easily trample us to death, so you must not hate. The more you hate, the harder it will be for you to survive. Wu Yu remembered that at that time, he had just crawled out of the grave. For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1137. It's all in the past. You shouldn't be very happy, after all, I arranged your life. I also have many difficulties, I believe you will understand in the future. Sun Wuodeo spoke to Wu Yu sincerely above the sky. Immediately, golden clouds surrounded him again, and people could no longer see clearly the ancient emperor's appearance. But when they saw the ancient emperor's words and changes, and then looked at Wu Yu's expression at this time, people knew clearly that this was the fact. That's the truth. Those who doubted that Wu Yu could survive even though he was carrying a huge treasure, this answer in front of them can completely relieve their doubts. Practicing means plundering, but being strong can lead to chivalry. This is the creed of the Tongtian sword sect. As for the Tongtian sword sect, it was Feng Xiya who established this doctrine, and Feng Xiya was the ancient emperor of Yanhuang, the emperor of Suqiao was also him, and Sun Wuodeo was also him. Sun Wuodeo's tomb finally became the entrance to the Teku Immortal Road, and all kinds of mysteries seemed to be solved at this moment. This is the truth. Wu Yu was in a blank state. At this moment, he really didn't know whether he should believe it or not. He felt that maybe he needed to calm down and take time to think. He looked at everyone blankly, and everyone looked at him with envy. Only some of the emperor's sons and daughters looked ashen, and Nangongwei was still a little confused after looking at Feng Shuiya, Sun Wuodeo, etc. Luo Ben looked at him slightly worriedly. There are also Nanshan Wanjiao and Yexi. It didn't matter to Nanshan Wanjiao, but Yezixi, Gu Di was the one who killed her parents. If what Gu Di said was true, then he wouldn't be able to face Yezixi. Yezixi's lifelong goal is revenge. Chaos, tangle, everything is scary. The most important thing right now is to stay calm. Although all this is indeed mysterious enough, fortunately, at this time, Mingtaki seemed to be relatively calm and said. Okay, Wu Yu also knew that he had to stay calm. However, some people can't calm down. That is the emperor's son. He stood not far in front of Wu Yu. Wu Yu watched with his own eyes as he fell into the abyss of nightmare, as if he fell from heaven into hell in an instant. He could understand how Emperor Keiru felt now, from an immortal to an object of ridicule, a waste, and all the excitement was just a joke. Now, all this about Wu Yu has spread throughout the world of Jambu, and no one knows about the new Yanhuang emperor. At this moment, a huge force suddenly came. Wu Yu, Nanshan Wanjiao, and Yezixi were shocked by the huge force and could not resist. They instantly moved to Dishishan and the others. Wu Yu had not noticed it at this time. What happened? Everyone was shocked. This should be the ancient emperor's action. Why did he? Wu Yu didn't understand. What he did was like protecting himself. He quickly looked back, and what he saw at this time was that in a blank space in the center, Emperor Yu, Chu Haoan, Chu Fenjiao and Bailey Xuanhuan were still where they were. However, at this time, Wu Yu already smelled an unusual smell. The emperor was staring at him. Wu Yu was struck by lightning again. Because at this time, he suddenly saw that the eyes of the emperor merged together and turned into a huge one eye. How could people change like this? What's even more frightening is that the bodies of Xuanhuan, Chu Fenjiao, Bailey Xuanhuan, and others began to crack at this time, and it seemed that the insides were not flesh and blood, but a silvery thing. At the shocking moment when everyone was stunned by this, they heard the ancient emperor sneer, "This is the first time that the gods of all things from the ancient immortal path have appeared in our world of Jambu. Are they finally willing to show themselves now?" The parasitic coffin beast. Wu Yu originally wanted to calm down, but he really couldn't calm down now. The Teku Immortal Road, the gods of all things, and the words parasitic coffin beast. What did he remember? Recalling that in the mausoleum on the Teku Immortal Road, the four people including Emperor Yu and Xuanhuan were killed alive by the foreign objects in the two coffins, he had actually seen Emperor and the others turned into corpses. And they magically returned at the last moment when the Teku Immortal Road was closed, which of course frightened Wu Yu. When he first met Emperor Yu, Wu Yu kept reminding himself to be wary of them. Later, because Emperor Yu's performance was almost flawless, especially in the ancient Soul Tower, it basically didn't seem like there was anything wrong with it, so Wu Yu had long forgotten about that incident. In fact, he had already believed it. Emperor Ji, I believe they came back to life at that time. However, now the ancient emperor says that they are the gods of all things from the ancient immortal path, and that they are parasitic coffin beasts, and the weirdness they are showing now is consistent with the ancient emperor's words. What the hell is this? Everyone, get out of here. The various forces that made the pilgrimage from all over the world did not expect that there would be changes. At this time, they were frightened enough. Even Huangzhong quickly led everyone from Nanyan Demon Continent away. After all, the current scene was indeed a bit scary. The ancient emperor smiled and said, "Don't panic, everyone. This parasitic coffin beast is indeed a magical spirit of all things. They come from the Teku Immortal Road and were mixed up when the Teku Immortal Road was opened last time. As the name suggests, they must be parasitic. They can only survive among flesh and blood creatures. However, they are very capable of parasitism, and ordinary immortals cannot see it at a glance. I only made a guess after a lot of inferences. The reason why their parasitism is difficult to distinguish is actually because they themselves do not dominate the subject's actions and thinking. Under normal circumstances, they are freely exerted by the subject, and they are hidden deep, so we will not find the emperor. There is something strange about these four people. They have no way out on the Teku Immortal Road, so they came to Yanfu world. It was they who learned that if they could become the emperor of Yanhuang, they would have a huge chance of becoming immortals in the future, so it can be considered that they have tried their best to get the flame golden pearl. Once the main body of this parasitic coffin beast becomes an immortal, it will be terrible. They can constantly change the parasite target and become stronger step by step. Even in heaven, there are few people can deal with them, but fortunately I saw through them in advance, so the threat they pose is not particularly great. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Only with the ancient emperor's explanation did Wu Yu understand all the truth. No wonder he couldn't discover the weirdness of Emperor Keiru. In fact, Emperor Keiru's normal behavior was his original behavior, and all his memories and temperament would not have changed at all. The reason why they are so eager for the flame golden pearl is because they want to become immortals. Once they become immortals, the parasitic coffin beast will be as terrifying as the sky-swallowing giant beast. It also knows that the ancient emperor will train his son to become an immortal. It just so happened that the ancient emperor seemed to be paying attention to the emperor's son. Although it was through Wu Yu, they felt that it was a great opportunity, so they joined the ancient Soul Tower. That's why they were so anxious. However, they did not expect that the ancient emperor would still see through them. Wu Yu's fiery eyes saw nothing. Wu Yu temporarily got over the fact that he was the emperor's son, and was completely frightened by the parasitic coffin beast. Is this the terrifying god of all things? Now, Emperor Kairu's body was also torn apart, and only the one eye remained. Unexpectedly, Emperor Kairu only had a layer of skin left. When the skin tore, a golden ball of flesh appeared. Its body was covered with dense tentacles, a bit like an octopus, but much more disgusting than an octopus. In addition, the bodies of Xuanhuan, Chu Fengjiu and Bailey Xuanhuan also split apart and turned into 3 meatballs. The meatballs were silver. At this time, they came together to form a golden monster that was similar to the one next to them. Also covered with tentacles, quite disgusting. Being parasitized in my body by such a thing. The 4 of them, including Emperor Yu and Xuanhuan, had actually died a long time ago. They only had a layer of skin left. After being peeled off, the ancient emperor collected their bodies and gave them to the regent Dishishan. Said, they died on the Taku Immortal Road. It's a pity that they will be buried grandly today. You can make arrangements later. The regent quickly collected it, nodded, and said, yes, the ancient emperor will definitely let the emperor leave with peace of mind. Wu Yu felt a little depressed. He didn't expect that the person he had been dealing with for so long was not the emperor, but a monster. Of course, it was a 2-headed monster. The 2 parasitic coffin beasts are now very impatient after being seen through, and they probably want to fight for their lives. However, although they are terrifying, no one is afraid of them, because the ancient emperor is here, and the ancient emperor has already said that they are in a weak state now. They don't have any competitiveness, a bit like the sky-swallowing giant beasts when they were young. They actually had the courage to pounce on the ancient emperor. Xiao Yu, I've got my revenge on you. The ancient emperor had no expression on his face. 2 rays of light shot out from his eyes, one was golden and the other was blue. The 2 rays of light instantly penetrated the bodies of the 2 parasitic coffin beasts. In an instant, the 2 gods of all things were amidst the screams, it turned into pieces. The ancient emperor's decision to deal with them today would also give Wu Yu an excuse to enter the ancient soul tower. Of course, it would also let the world see clearly what happened. Now, the parasitic coffin beast is gone, and people all know that there is such a secret in it. This is also the reason why the ancient emperor did not choose Emperor Yu's son. Actually, I don't have the heart to kill them. After all, if they don't attack, it's as if Zyrus still exists. There's not much difference. His will is still going on. But now they are angry and angry. There is nothing they can do. Gu De felt a little sad. People were shocked. People have always thought that the ancient emperor was aloof and never seemed to care about his children, but now it seems that this is not the case. He only cares for them secretly and does not show up. This is another form of father. It seems, it's over. After sighing with emotion, the ancient emperor faced Wu Yu again, paused briefly, and said, remember, I will ascend the throne as emperor tomorrow and give you the emperor's name of Emperor Yu. At this moment, the world is silent. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1138. Emperor Yu. Even the account ban was handled by Wu Yu. Perhaps in the future, people in the world will call Wu Yu Emperor Yanhuang Yu. From Emperor Envoy to Emperor Yu, the change in status is truly astonishing. From now on, if the ancient Emperor Yanhuang retreats behind the scenes and stops showing up, then Wu Yu will be the most powerful person in the Yanfu world. The entire ancient Yanhuang kingdom is under his control, and the entire world of Jambu depends on his face. Moreover, Wu Yu now fully has the combat power to match it. The 3 consecutive blows that defeated the Golden Giant are still remembered in people's hearts. At that last moment, he indeed became the strongest person in the ancient Soul Tower. The scary thing is that he is not yet 100 years old. No one can imagine how brilliant he will be in the future with such an identity at this age. Now, I'm afraid they have already planned how to build a good relationship with Wu Yu. Congratulations to Emperor Yu, congratulations to Emperor Ziyu. All over the city, hundreds of millions of people shouted at the same time, with great passion. After all, he has not ascended the throne today and the ancient emperor is still here. They cannot directly address him as Emperor Yu. For the people, even if they used to look down on Wu Yu, a man from Dongsheng Divine Continent, now they know that he is actually the son raised by the ancient emperor himself. How dare they have any grudges in their hearts? Now they are full of reverence and fanaticism. Besides, for the people, from Wu Yu, they saw great hope for the future prosperity of the Yanhuang ancient kingdom, and except for him, no other emperor's son or daughter had such hope. Amidst the overwhelming sounds of congratulations and the extremely envious gazes of the people, the ancient emperor continued, as the saying goes, it is better to choose the day than to hit it. Today, the competition for the ancient soul tower has ended. Emperor, you will not disappoint me. If you perform well, we will set tomorrow as the day of enthronement. You have come all the way, so you are not in a hurry to leave. On behalf of Yanhuang, I invite you to attend the enthronement ceremony tomorrow. For now, you can go back to Wangguo City to rest. Then, he said to the regent Dishishan, you are responsible for entertaining all distinguished guests. As you command, ancient emperor. The regent smiled brightly. It was rare that the Yanhuang ancient emperor was polite to them. This is of course an explanation. Emperor Gu is in a very good mood today. If everything in this ancient soul tower is fair, this does mean that his years of cultivation have produced very good results. Congratulations to the ancient emperor, for being able to cultivate an unprecedented super genius like Emperor Yu's son, which shows that the ancient emperor is truly extremely wise and capable of teaching. Yes, Emperor Yu is indeed very ambitious. With today's transformation, the Yanhuang ancient kingdom will surely be more prosperous and prosperous in the future. Looking at this situation, the emperors, sect leaders, and others from the small and medium-sized forces couldn't wait to flatter him, express their positions and praise the ancient emperor and Emperor Yu's son. This is a rare opportunity for the ancient emperor to be in a good mood and to give the ancient emperor a good impression. Now, if I can be blunt, the ancient emperor Yanhuang is the guardian of this Jiamfu world and the god here. Later, even Emperor Minghai, who was in the same excellent mood, also said, earlier, Emperor Yu once lived in Beiming for a period of time. Although he was young at that time, he also performed extremely well. He outperformed all my princes at such a young age. I was still confused at the time, but I didn't expect that he was the emperor's son who was personally trained by the ancient emperor, but now I finally realized it. Congratulations to the ancient emperor, and congratulations to the emperor's son. Princess Yuqing went to the ancient soul tower and directly reached the realm of Yuan Shen. Coupled with the relationship between Princess Yuqing and Wu Yu, Emperor Minghai naturally knew that this was the best moment to bring Beiming and Yanhuang closer. Many big characters at the level of the great emperor of the underworld also congratulated one after another with great joy. It can be seen that the forces of all nations are completely convinced by the change of the old and the new in the Yanhuang ancient kingdom. In fact, apart from the ancient emperor, the Yanhuang ancient kingdom was not very special, but the existence of the ancient emperor made the Yanhuang ancient kingdom leapfrog above all powers and become the super overlord of the Jiamfu world. Maybe they are all waiting. One day, if the ancient emperor is gone, then someone can redivide the world and divide the resources of monasticism, and there will no longer be a need for pilgrims from all nations. But now that Wu Yu is born, he is more terrifying than the ancient emperor when he was young. This undoubtedly makes the forces of all nations retreat in spite of difficulties. Wu Yu has grown up. It is obvious that in the next countless years, the forces of all nations will continue to grow. Under the shadow of Wu Yu. At this time, the ancient emperor announced that Wu Yu would ascend the throne tomorrow and asked them to attend. This was also for the purpose of intimidating him. The more stunning Wu Yu is, the more they will put their minds aside. Even the Phoenix Lord smiled at this time and said, with Emperor Yu's presence, it is conceivable that Yanhuang will still be prosperous and prosperous in the future. Of course, this has been the case since ancient times. We and other forces from all countries, they all respect Yan and Huang, and there are only two words in their hearts, that is, admire, even, very admire. She is the most powerful person under the ancient emperor, and she also made a certain statement at this time, which means that in the future, she will still respect Yanhuang and will not have any ambitions. The only ones who didn't express their opinions in the end were the Shenlong clan. Of course, the Shenlong clan has never had any intention of competing for hegemony. Most of the time, they recover silently. Wu Yu looked at Luo Bin several times. Luo Bin was also a little confused, and there was also worry in the confusion. Wu Yu had already told her that he was in a state of confusion now and would go find her later. Wu Yu had long wanted to one day, can have another chance to be alone with her. Unexpectedly, the ancient emperor was still smiling at this time, in a very good mood, and said, Dragon Lord Lupin, in fact, I also know that you and you have a relationship. You have always been the driving force of his cultivation. He has made many efforts to catch up with your realm of Taoism. Now, he finally has the talent, realm of cultivation, and status that match yours. You have already fallen in love with each other early on and want to be the fairy couple that the world envies. As a father, I will make the decision for my son. When you ascends the throne, I will personally take you to the Four Seas Dragon Palace to propose to you and make you two fairy couples come true. In fact, when he came here, in order to avoid letting the ancient emperor notice Lupin, Wu Yu deliberately kept a distance from her. Unexpectedly, the ancient emperor also knew about this matter. But everything he said now made Wu Yu a little uncomfortable. First of all, he was pursuing Lupin, and now he almost met the conditions to become her Taoist partner. However, Wu Yu had also formally pursued her, and the two of them did not have the status of Taoist partners. Before that, it could only be regarded as Lupin giving him a chance. If he really wanted to pursue her, of course he wanted to do it himself. He himself had been waiting for this day for a long time, and pursuing Lupin was indeed Wu Yu's goal. But for the ancient emperor to say this and to propose marriage in person, Wu Yu felt that this was a little disrespectful to Lupin. Of course, the ancient emperor was a god, and he did not need to respect others too much. However, outsiders still did not know about Wu Yu's affairs. After all, Wu Yu and Lupin were not from the same era. Lupin was much older than him, and even his father was younger. And people did not know what connection the two had before. Before the ancient Soul Tower, Wu Yu was an insignificant existence. But the ancient emperor said, they were in love with each other and were a couple of gods. Moreover, after Wu Yu ascends the throne, he will probably have to choose a time to personally go to the Four Seas Dragon Palace to propose marriage. The emperor of the ancient country of Yanhuang, the dragon master of the Four Seas Dragon clan, is bluntly said that these are the two people with the highest status in the world of Yanfu, except for the ancient emperor. Wu Yu, with the status of Emperor Yu, can indeed be on an equal footing with Luo Bin. If two people of such status are combined into a Taoist couple, they will be a real immortal couple. People can only sigh in shock, will they let others live? Except envy, envy. The ancient emperor said here, and also took advantage of the momentum here to spread it all over the world. Obviously, he has a certain grasp of the relationship between Wu Yu and Luo Bin, so he knows that Luo Bin will not refuse. At least not in public. For them, this is no problem at all. Such a good daughter-in-law, which parent does not want his son to marry home immediately? The marriage between the Yanhuang royal family and the Shenlong clan was something that people in history could not even think of. However, there was already a big uproar today, and everyone had been shocked enough, so when there was another shocking thing, people were used to it. They just congratulated the ancient emperor again, congratulated Wu Yu, and then congratulated the emperor's son, and congratulated the 4 sea dragon masters. At this time, Wu Yu seemed to be living the life that people most desired. Wu Yu was a little nervous. Although the ancient emperor was anxious, he was still worried. When the ancient emperor said it, he had already looked at her. In this storm, her eyes were as calm as water, and this storm did not seem to catch her off guard. Behind her, the other Shenlong elders seemed to be a little angry, especially the Shenlian demon dragon. They were about to speak and express their opinions, but Luo Bin turned back in advance and asked them to shut up. Obviously, Wu Yu knew that the other Shenlongs would definitely not want Luo Bin to walk with him. If he were not Emperor Yu, maybe they could accept a peerless genius who was worthy of Lupin, but their first choice was definitely to let Lupin be with Shenlong to ensure the pure blood of their offspring. Lupin was a rare Shenlong with precious blood. She was not the strongest of the Shenlong clan, but she could be the Dragon Lord of the 4 seas because of her blood. Therefore, Wu Yu knew in his heart that the Shenlong clan definitely did not want her to marry outside. And now, if he were the emperor of Yanhuang, the Shenlong clan would probably be even more unwilling. They themselves did not want to be related to the Yanhuang clan. However, Lupin still had authority. Even if they were very dissatisfied and even asked the ancient emperor to withdraw his order on the spot, Lupin did not let them do so, which was not good for the Shenlong clan. Wu Yu knew that he needed to speak for himself at this time, otherwise Lupin would be really difficult to deal with. Perfect Anti-Theft Chapter. Please use search engines to search for keywords. Various novels are available for you to watch. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 1139. Before he fully understood it, he would not call the ancient emperor his father. At this moment when everyone was shocked by the love between Wu Yu and Luo Bin, and there was a heated discussion, Wu Yu almost spoke for the first time. He suddenly said, "Everyone, be quiet for a moment. Well, there is no relationship between me and Luo Bin, you know, don't be too anxious, just let nature take its course and give us some more time, okay?" He looked a little shy. This was also a method he used in desperation. In this way, at least to outsiders, he was not strongly opposed to the ancient emperor, but because he was shy and did not dare to make such a public announcement in public. After saying this, everyone burst into laughter. People did not expect that Wu Yu, who had been so domineering before, could be so shy, almost like a young boy in love. This undoubtedly made Wu Yu appear more real, and made Wu Yu look more real. People found him a bit cute. And cuteness can dissolve seriousness. Amidst the laughter of everyone, the ancient emperor said in a slightly helpless tone, "Well, I was too hasty. Young people's affairs should be allowed to take their course." Fortunately, he didn't insist hard. Listening to his tone, it seemed that he really felt a little anxious, so his tone now also felt like a father's wry smile. Invisibly, Wu Yu resolved the embarrassment. Under all the attention, Luo Bin just smiled slightly. That indifferent and decent feeling, coupled with her beauty, dignity, and tranquility like the blue sea, made people unable to help but feel envious of Wu Yu. Of course, Wu Yu is not bad at all now. The ancient emperor called them a couple of gods and immortals, and they are really not bad at all. Luo Bin is indeed very decent. After Wu Yu settled the matter, she did not refuse. From her current performance, everyone can see that between her and Wu Yu, it is a slightly hazy, but already mutual love stage, at least not exclusion. Anyway, this matter seems to others, especially their slightly ambiguous appearance now, which makes people envious from the bottom of their hearts. In fact, Wu Yu was also a little uneasy, but he looked at Luo Bin's smile now. He felt a lot more at ease, at least he knew that Luo Bin still had some good impressions of him, otherwise she wouldn't have come all the way here. He really liked Luo Bin and was deeply attracted to her from the beginning. Thinking about it, I still feel beautiful. In fact, it was precisely because of Luo Bin that under the impact of today's huge changes, Wu Yu felt like an icy spring was flowing through his heart because of her smile at this time, allowing him to feel the sweetness. Keep calm. However, suddenly, there was a tingling sensation on his neck. He stretched out his hand and touched it. It was in the direction of the phoenix mark. This reminded Wu Yu of Nangong Wei. At this time, he looked in the direction of the Nanyan Demon Continent team and saw Nangong Wei stood behind Huang Zun and couldn't see her face clearly, but Wu Yu could feel her extremely violent emotions, but at this time, in front of everyone and the ancient emperor, she seemed to have to suppress it. Why is she angry? She doesn't remember, or in other words, even though she doesn't remember, she should still be angry when she should be angry? Or, she is actually pretending, she just remembers. Wu Yu was distracted by her. He was thinking about the possibility that Nangong Wei actually remembered, but there was a lot of evidence from the Tianyao Emperor's mansion that she still didn't remember. Remembering that he also had some entanglements with her in the ancient Soul Tower. Now, of course he wants to pursue Luo Bin wholeheartedly, but Nangong Wei is still a little confused. At this time, the ancient emperor spoke. Okay, let's break up. Gu De was in a very good mood today and had already talked a lot, which would have been a miracle on a normal day. However, after saying these words, he disappeared quickly. After the figure disappeared, it seemed that his laughter was still being conveyed on the Feng Guo Tianyuan platform. The ancient emperor is gone. I don't know if he will appear again when he takes the throne tomorrow. Given the ancient emperor's character, we might never see him again. That's not even possible. After all, Yanhuang now has a new emperor. Emperor Yu. For Wu Yu, it was like dreaming back to Suqiao. It's the eve before taking the throne again. He felt that his life began at that time. Everything about that night is unforgettable. But now the ancient emperor actually told himself that everything was designed by him. How does this make him believe? At this time, the various forces from the entire Jambu world said goodbye to Wu Yu and the regent. They wanted to return to the city of all nations to rectify the situation. The pilgrimage of all nations has ended, and they also need to face the next changes. There are some private conversations. Luo Bin didn't say much and went back with the other dragon clan. Looking at the appearance of those dragons at this time, Wu Yu felt that Luo Bin might face some troubles because those people were obviously not particularly satisfied with her, especially when she had under the relationship of another identity. How could the Four Seas Dragon Lord of their Shenlong clan be a Taoist companion for Emperor Yan and Huang? Moreover, the successive emperors of Yan and Huang had harems of 3,000 or even tens of thousands. Although they had queens, they were very noble, but the majestic Dragon Lord of the world naturally did not need such dignity. They seem to have the same status, but in fact they each have their own nobility, which makes them even more difficult to get along with. The bustle has passed, and the bigger bustle will be tomorrow. Everyone needs time to settle and discuss this sudden change, so they have all returned to the city of 10,000 kingdoms. The Yanhuang tribe gathered in the divine capital should also return to their own position has gone up. The regent arranged for people to send them back to Wangguo city respectfully. On the side of the Yanhuang tribe, the sons and daughters of emperors may have suffered the greatest failure and despair in their lives. They looked miserable and left in despair. If they were not required to attend tomorrow's enthronement ceremony, they might not come. As for the other relatives of the emperor, as well as the princes and ministers, they wanted to chat with Wu Yu a little more and get close to each other. However, Wu Yu first said to the regent, "What happened today is really unimaginable to me. I want to go back and take a rest." The regent was very smart and had a very kind face. He said, "Your Majesty, Just go and have a rest. I will send you the details of tomorrow's enthronement using the messenger talisman later. Just take a look at it. You don't need to make too many preparations. Ye Wu Yu nodded. The others were very sensible after hearing this conversation, and did not come up to bother Wu Yu at this time. They basically congratulated him from a distance. If they come here tonight, Wu Yu's identity will change dramatically, and by then, they will see Wu Yu. It's time to exercise etiquette. The Emperor and the others are gone. Wu Yu, Nanshan Wanjiao, and Yezixi had no other place to go in the imperial city for the time being, so they naturally returned to the Emperor's mansion. Of course, they only went to the Emperor's palace. Starting from tomorrow, Wu Yu may change palaces. It is said that many people have not stayed in the Emperor Palace, the residence of the Emperor. That day the ancient Emperor is haunted and has stopped staying in the divine capital for a long time. The Imperial Palace is the most splendid palace in the world of Jambudvipa. The dream of all the sons and daughters of emperors is to live there. Unexpectedly, it would be Wu Yu who was going there tomorrow. No one in the world could have guessed this change. The three of them quickly returned to the Emperor's mansion. It was very lively and even noisy outside. For Wu Yu's ascension to the throne tomorrow, the entire imperial city is now busy preparing. Many things need to be changed and many rituals need to be rehearsed. In this grand ceremony, only Wu Yu, who was the party involved, was relatively relaxed. In the Emperor's hall, the three of them sat cross-legged with each other. Nanshan Wanjiao looked at Wu Yu with a smile, shook his head and said, "Don't you think about it? I can't believe it. We are afraid of that ancient emperor every day, but we didn't expect it to be you, me." Yezixi's eyes were a little red and bloodshot. She was not willing to believe the truth now. Wu Yu had actually calmed down a lot along the way. In fact, they should be laughing and dividing up such a huge treasure as the flame golden pearl, but now, they are not in such a mood. He didn't even bother to care about the flame golden pearl. After all, what happened now had a greater impact on Wu Yu than the treasures of pilgrims from all nations. He took a deep breath and said, "I've thought about it for a while. Are you willing to listen?" Nanshan Wanjiao said, "Of course I am willing. To be honest, who you are actually doesn't matter to us. Of course, it may be a little bigger for Zixi, but if you don't stop her from taking revenge, it doesn't matter." Wu Yu nodded. He glanced at Yezixi, touched her head, and said, "I haven't told you that the three people he showed today are my father, my mentor, and my leader. The elders who have changed my life are very important to me. Now I make two assumptions. Assuming that the three people I met are actually him, then Gudi is definitely a good person, an elder that I respect, and even a father that I should respect extremely, because he gave me everything, and I can give everything for him. If this is the case, but he really killed Zixi's parents, I was also there at the time, so this is obviously extremely difficult for me, because I am the one in the middle, and I know it. How difficult it is, maybe I won't stop you and won't let him touch you." Wu Yu looked at Yezixi. "Brother you." Yezixi started crying. She shook her head and said, "I don't want this. I want revenge, but I don't want you to be sad either." Wu Yu shook his head and said, "There is no way to have both sides in this kind of thing, which really makes me helpless. If you stand in his position, it is also reasonable for him to kill your father in order to bring peace to the Yanhuang ancient country. If it is true, it's really a difficult choice to make, but it's just one assumption." "What about other hypotheses?" Nanshan Wanjiao asked. Wu Yu looked deeply and said, "That's dangerous. It means that he knows me better than I thought. He even knows everything about me, including my relationship with Luo Ben, my mentor, and my father. The relationship between them is very clear. He must have some purpose for me." When Yezixi heard this possibility, she even panicked. "I don't want the latter possibility to happen, it's too scary, but if it's the first one, I also." For the chapter Perfect Anti-Theft, please use the search engine to search for keywords and you can read various novels. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 1140. For Wu Yu, if it is the first possibility, that the ancient emperor who has cast a shadow on him for a long time turns out to be his father, then the clouds will indeed disappear, and the next step will be bright. R-N-E-N. Renan. But this was a painful decision for Yezixi. Yezixi is the only one who feels uncomfortable with this possibility. For example, Nanshan Wanjiao knew that if this was the case, he would also be happy for Wu Yu. If it is the second possibility, it is indeed terrifying. A person who completely understands himself, even pretending to be his father, then how terrifying will his purpose be? If you ask me, you should just flee the ancient demon world with your family, and quickly go to Dongsheng Divine Continent to find your sister, master, etc. This way you don't have to worry about it, Minglong said. This was from her point of view. She was worried that something might happen to Wu Yu, so she didn't want to take any risks. Wu Yu shook his head and said, "This is not possible. First, he knows so many things. Could he even know about the gate of the ancient demon world? Second, if I go to Dongsheng Shenzhou at this time, I can't escape him. After all, there is a national boundary magic circle. He will not let me succeed. Thirdly, the ancient demon world is not a good place, there are more powerful demons there, and they are still in the killing period. Let's give it a try." Wu Yu thought for a while, and he was ready to send his sky-swallowing body over first. In this way, no matter what happens, he still has a clone that is equivalent to his true body. He did what he said. He first opened the door to the ancient demon world in the Tower of Floating Life. "Do you think he will stop him?" Nanshan Wanjiao asked nervously. Just watch. About a quarter of an hour later, the door to the ancient demon world opened. Wu Yu and the others entered and arrived at the cave in the ancient demon world. The cat demons didn't know that they had left yet, they only knew that they had left. "I am in retreat, so there is no interruption. The cave in this ancient demon world is very quiet. We've all come here, and he didn't stop him, so he's not afraid that we won't go back from now on," Nanshan Wanjiao asked. "Those people I care about are still in the world of Jambudvipa. If I were him, and if he really has a terrible purpose, I should be sure that I won't not go back." Wu Yu knew it in his heart. Of course, he couldn't completely think that way. For now, he still felt that what Gu Di said might be true. He had to go back and figure it all out so that Wu Yu, Feng Shui and Luo Bin could all be safe. The world of Yanfu was where he had been all these years. If he hadn't been forced to do so, he definitely wouldn't have wanted to come to this place. No shit, a world full of monsters and a killing period. The first choice he makes now is to leave the heaven-swallowing body here permanently. This is his last resort. Once he is defeated miserably in the Jamfu world, at least he still has a body. During this period, do you choose to be in the Jambudar world or here? Wu Yu asked about Nanshan, looking at the moon and the night. Yezixi said hurriedly, "Brother Yu, I don't want you to take risks. I want to go back with you." Nanshan Wanjiao was about to say what he was about to say when Wu Yu shook his head first and said, "The 2 days after ascending the throne may be the most dangerous time. You should stay here for now. You can also take advantage of your increased strength to move here, strengthen the magic circle. There are many treasures in the flame golden pearl. I will put them here first. You can study and classify them first." He took out the flame gold bead. At this time, the flame gold bead had dispersed, leaving only a sumuru bag. This was a sumuru bag with the level of a spiritual Taoist weapon. The space inside was probably as big as a city, and it holds a lot of treasure and is extremely sturdy. Take it. Seeing their hesitation, Wu Yu became a little more serious. For now, even in the worst case scenario, at least he still has an identity, and at least his brothers and sisters, Nanshan and Yazixi, can survive. Brother Yu, I'm worried about you. Yazixi couldn't help but burst into tears. If they didn't take it, Wu Yu's sky-swallowing body was also here, and it was Wu Yu himself, so he came to take stock of what was there. Nanshan Wanjiao smiled and said, "Girl, don't cry. Maybe the ancient emperor is really his father. He must be fine. You are the one who is troubled." Wu Yu was helpless at this point. He wiped away Yazixi's tears and said, "There is no answer yet. When there is an answer, I will give you a satisfactory explanation no matter what. Stay here, make yourself stronger, and inherit the rolling curtain general's mantle. Besides, I'm not leaving, I'm not with you." He pointed at his sky-devouring body. Indeed, Wu Yu is still by their side. Alive, Nanshan Wanjiao patted him on the shoulder. "Don't worry, if anything happens, I will tell you at any time," his sky-swallowing body said. "Don't worry too much about what happens. Come here quickly." Nanshan Wanjiao pursed her lips and said, "Okay." Wu Yu once again opened the door to the ancient demon world. "What if he steals your door to the ancient demon world?" Nanshan Wanjiao said suddenly. Wu Yu hasn't thought of this yet, but it really needs to be clear. Immediately, he smiled bitterly. This is really scary. He could only say, "If that's the case, then we need to change our base, a place far away from here, so that even if he comes here, he can't find us. Moreover, there are demon gods here themselves. I don't believe him immortal. Coming here will not disturb other demon gods, and he may not dare or be able to enter this world. Because it requires blood sacrifice, the gate to the ancient demon world must follow his body. Open the door to the ancient demon world next time, because the place where he disappeared last time is here. If the ancient emperor comes here, he will also appear in this place, so to be on the safe side, he cannot stay even in this place." Next, the body of Swallowing the Sky took Nanshan Wanjiao, Yazixi, Black Phoenix and other puppets to start looking for other strongholds in the ancient demon world, away from the cat demon's territory. And his body returned to the world of Jambu. In this world, he still had too many people he cared about, such as Luo Bin. She was still in the world of Jambu. Wu Yu could not escape by himself and let her stay here. And Nangong Wei is here too. The main body returned to the emperor's palace, with a slight gap. He was the only one left in this huge emperor's palace. However, you can still hear the lively feeling in the entire imperial city outside. For Emperor Yu's ascension to the throne, the entire imperial city is now preparing enthusiastically, playing drums, and even the entire ancient Yanhuang kingdom, all the cities, towns, and even villages are there. Intense preparations were made, and everyone's face showed a smile for the hope of Yanhuang in the future and for the eternal prosperity. Wu Yu was in the emperor's mansion, as if the bustling world had nothing to do with him. "What do you think?" Wu Yu asked Ming Long. "I think it's mostly dangerous. Otherwise, why wouldn't he show up and tell you everything clearly? Or is he afraid of being exposed? In my opinion, if he is simply divided into good and bad, then good will only account for 30% of the possibilities, and bad will account for 70%. It's possible. If you separate a body and go to the ancient demon world, you have some options, but I also know that you have concerns in this world, and it is really impossible to leave at this time. If the ancient emperor is bad, naturally, I saw this. Then what? If he is good, then there is nothing to say. He has really spent a lot of effort to cultivate you. If he is bad, it is terrible. He actually understands you so well that he even deceives you and even does it for you. Having so many arrangements, especially the ancient soul tower, shows that he must have a serious intention. Moreover, the reason why he has not taken action yet is probably because the time has not yet come. Once the time comes, it will definitely be the end of you. You know when the opportunity is and what the situation is. There is still a little time. He is in the dark and you are in the light. He is a god and you are a mortal. It is actually easy for him to defeat you, so you have no hope and can only pray that he is actually your father. Minglong's words are rough but not rough. Wu Yu actually knew very well that if the ancient emperor really had any purpose for him, based on the ancient emperor's understanding of him, he had no chance of survival. If you come back from Nanyan Demon Continent and go to Dongsheng Divine Continent first to send your sister or something to the ancient demon world, maybe you won't be so passive now, Minglong said. Impossible. Based on his understanding of me, this may be his only way to control me. He will definitely not let me succeed, Wu Yu said. If so, he might use all means in advance. Of course, we still can't tell whether he is a bad person or not. So, still have to look down. If you can spend time with the ancient emperor, you must test him. Do Yang, you will definitely lose. Let's see if there is some hope in Doji. Living in such a world where gods exist is indeed too depressing. To him, you little mortals are just little ants, nothing can escape his control, it is just a matter of time to capture you. Wu Yu did not let Minglong's negativity scare him. When the enthronement is completed tomorrow, I will go to Dongsheng Shenzhou and see what will happen. He wanted to escape, but he could not give up his relatives or his mentor. If anything happens, he does not regret staying here. It can only be said that he was indeed a little green at the beginning. Before his rise, he was not prepared for many things, but the ancient emperor knew him so well that he had been prepared in advance. It seems to be of no use. Anyway, it depends on your fate. It was still daytime, and there were still more than 6 hours until tomorrow. It was still early, and he wanted to go find Luo Bin. I haven't been able to talk to her face to face for a long time. It's May Day, I wish you all a happy holiday, Labor Day, let's continue working. /U003 sem /U003e. /U003 section class equals readad /U003e. /U003c section /U003e. Announcement: the last 4 days of the monthly subscription for the entire site, no more misses. Android version download, read offline without GG. Book list similar recommendations to In the Name of the People. iPhone version new client download. /U003c/m /U003e. If, q.storage, read type, equal to /U0026 /U0026, VIP chapter /U003c0, /U003c scr plus ipt src equals add/v, 8 equals h5-01 /U003e /U003c scr plus ipt /U003e. /U003c /U003e